Hello, everyone. My name is Cody Lawhorn. This is Inklings Behind the Scenes with a special episode of the Writer's Room Takeover as we continue to write the first episode of Season 0, which is Cowboy Dinosaur. Jesse was very kind in Monday's post when he said that he wanted us to take a step back to revisit what happened with the Night Crew. The Night Crew was a short film that Jesse and I worked on back when we were getting ready to graduate from college, film school. And The Night Crew was a short that was very near and dear to Jesse's heart because it came from his life experiences. And the core story, although if you watch it, it may seem silly and goofy, it really reflected some of the hardest times in Jesse's life. So I'm very excited that we have an opportunity to go back, re-record some of the old dialogue that he wasn't too happy with, tweak some of the audio and the sound effects, and then re-release it in 4K. It's very exciting. And although it was very kind of Jesse to take the helm on Monday and revisit what happened with the Night Crew and to talk a little bit about his progression with the process of remastering and re-releasing it, that was not the real reason why he took over Monday's episode. The real reason was because I suffered from paralysis of analysis. I really wanted to do an episode with Jesse where we have a conversation. I really feel that having conversations with Jesse are our most dynamic episodes, to where if I'm having an issue or I've got writer's block and I've hit a wall, through my dialogue and my discussions with Jesse, I'm able to break free from that paralysis of analysis and that writer's block. These episodes take a little bit longer to make because you have to split up the audio, and then Jesse has to assign the audio to both of our characters. So it can be slightly more time-consuming on Jesse's end. And he's been really busy with family stuff, and so we did not have an opportunity to make one of those episodes, even though I practically begged him for one of those episodes. Today, we are picking up the ball, and we are charging through. We are going to run through this brick wall, and we are going to write a bunch of words on the page that are probably, most likely, definitely garbage. And we will have to go back and fix it in the edit. Let's talk for a minute about why I feel that I am stuck. I feel that I am stuck because this first episode of Inklings for Season 0 is a micro short. And this micro short, Jesse has requested that all of these shorts be chronological order and that the bugs arrive in chronological order to the canon of the story. In this specific episode, one of our main characters, Poe, is going to be watching a TV show, which is Cowboy Dinosaur, another intellectual property that Jesse created. And he's supposed to be watching the show, this episode, and as he's watching it, the power goes out because the weather's really bad outside and the wind's blowing like crazy. And so after the power gets blown out, Poe needs to find an alternative to his entertainment. And so he's going to realize that he actually has a copy of Cowboy Dinosaur, the book, whether it's a comic book or just a rather regular book. I'm not going to overthink that too much right now. But Poe needs to find that and be able to finish the story. Where I personally have been a little hung up is that I want to solve the problem for Poe. I want him to get himself out of this trouble and solve the issue of needing to find closure in knowing what happens at the end of this Cowboy Dinosaur episode. Now that's all well and good, but through my conversations with Jesse, we've established that Poe hates spaghetti. And there will be a really big reason for this, and it's going to be a very tragic reason why he hates spaghetti. And this will be revealed later throughout the show. But through my conversations with Jesse, and this particular episode for Season 0 and the Cowboy Dinosaur episode, Jesse would like the food that Cowboy wants to eat to be spaghetti, the thing that Poe hates. Where my mind goes when I think of someone watching a TV show and the power goes out, I feel that as the watcher of that television show, when the power goes out, you're left in a moment of suspense. We always want to know what happens next. You can see we've added that line there about Poe moving to the edge of his seat. Where I think I'm going to go with this, or where I initially thought I was going to go with this episode, was that the power would cut out right before Poe finds out what it is that Cowboy wants to eat. Because right here, we're going to have Dinosaur tell Cowboy that he's hungry for, let's say, we could do hamburgers, we could do some type of fruit, but I think everyone generally loves pizza. We may go with pizza. Let's think about this here. I do think pizza might work best. It doesn't have to be a completely stark contrast from what Cowboy wants to eat. I do think it could be Italian food as well. But yeah, I think we're gonna go with pizza here. So Dinosaur tells Cowboy he wants pizza. And so I think this is a great time for Poe to feel a little relief. He doesn't have to confront that demon of his. And so now what we're going to do is I feel that this is the best time for the power to go out and to leave Poe in suspense about what it is that Cowboy wants to eat. So Poe's going to take a big sigh of relief right here. And then after he takes his big sigh of relief, we're going to hand it back over to Cowboy for Cowboy to begin his line, but then he's going to leave us on a big cliffhanger because that's when the power to the TV is going to go out. And then Poe has to then go through and try to find this episode or the book that he knows he has of Cowboy Dinosaur. The part where I get hung up on as a writer is, yes, the Inklings will be diving into books and living out their imagination and their time with each other through the books and the stories within the show. Sometimes they'll be doing other silly things without fully diving into the stories. But more often than not, I really do see them diving into the stories. And the reveal of the spaghetti, I feel, should be more dynamic. I don't think we should reveal the spaghetti once Poe finds the book and then just opens the book to the page. I feel that maybe it would give us more credibility, or not credibility. Let me rephrase that. I feel that it would give us an opportunity for us to move on to the next episode if maybe Poe had the book, but maybe it was missing some pages. Maybe it was damaged. Something to cause Poe to need to get out of the house, to get out of the library, and to go find the next copy of the book, which will then propel us into the second episode of Season 0, which is A Perfect Hat for Poe. And in that episode, in A Perfect Hat for Poe, Poe knows that he needs to go out to get the next copy of the Cowboy Dinosaur book, but before he goes out, he wants to make sure he's wearing the perfect hat for his outing. I'm going to be brutally honest with all of you right here. This little interaction I'm writing between Cowboy and Dinosaur about Cowboy saying, "Oh, pizza sounds good, but I just had pizza yesterday." This is just kind of filler lines for now. And I know that sounds really horrible, like it doesn't matter to the story of Cowboy Dinosaur that we are telling, but sometimes you just have to get something down on the page in order for you to progress. And I really feel like I've been... maybe this is what all writers feel like, but I just, with some scripts, I feel like I'm tethered and I'm chained and I have constraints and I can't write exactly what it is I want to write because I have to stay within a certain set of guidelines. And although I do feel that it's an excuse when I struggle, when I get to this point and I kind of struggle, I do feel that it's a part of me, one of my opportunities for improvement, because I tend to complain and act overwhelmed when the solution to all of these things is very simple. We just have to get words down on the page. It's really not a big deal. It's really not. So I worry about little details here and there. As you can see, I put a parenthetical up top, which I don't even know if it's necessary or not. Because, of course, Poe is by himself in his room as he's been watching this episode of Cowboy Dinosaur. Okay, so here we go. This is the moment of anticipation when Poe is really on edge. It's like he knows what's coming. It's like he can see it. He can feel it. I am going through here, and this is me trying to edit, trying to make the words perfect when they hit the page. And this is just not, it's something that I really struggle with. Okay, so the power cuts out. The TV goes blank or black. And then this is where we need to segue into, well, before Poe decides to go out and get the next book, he needs to find his existing copy of the book And then he needs to realize that he doesn't have the entire story of the rest of this episode for the Cowboy Dinosaur episode that he's watching. Okay, I feel like I've been rambling this episode, and I apologize if I've repeated myself too often. So I feel, now typically, this line right here, Poe lets out a sign of both disappointment and relief. I feel that sometimes, unless it's really imperative to the story, I wouldn't put a line like that in, because for live action films and TV, that's kind of more that's in a gray area. It's in a gray area between actually needing to be in the script and what should just be direction from the director to the actors. I feel that for animation, though, that line there where Poe lets out a sigh of both disappointment and relief, I feel that is important to animation, and to have that written down for the animators. The animators being Jesse. So then we have Poe complain here, because I feel that any time that Poe is not complaining is a wasted opportunity, because he is our stink bug. Okay, so he comments on the power outage. So what am I going to do now? And then he has an idea. He thinks he has a copy of this episode of Cowboy Dinosaur somewhere in his room. It's either on a bookshelf, it's either under his bed, it's maybe in a trunk or drawers somewhere. So we are just going to slog through this. We are going to break through this brick wall here. I also struggle with page and script length. Most writers they write and then they're forced to delete and cut things out. I find that more often than not, I'm a little too efficient with my writing. And when I am too efficient with my writing, I feel like I don't have enough pages. Like I've left parts of the plot or the story out. And I really wish I had the problem of writing too much and then needing to cut out pages of my script. Oh, how I wish I had that problem. But I don't. I tend to write less as opposed to more. And maybe that's because I try to edit in my head as I write. But more often than not, I do find that quality about myself as a writer is, more often than not, it hurts me more than it helps me. Okay, so we've got Poe here. He's digging through some bookshelves. He's got no luck. Poe then opens a trunk and dives in. I just see the bottom half of his legs like dangling out of this trunk as he's throwing random objects out. Classic cartoon trope there. And it could be fun to see. And maybe the items he throws out of the trunk are not random. Maybe the items he throws out of the trunk play a part in future episodes. These are opportunities that I look for to set things up. Okay, so Poe reads the cover of this book that he finds, and we are probably going to wrap up here shortly. I feel like we have made a little bit of progress. It's not a ton of progress, but sometimes, some weeks, some days, something is exponentially better than nothing. I feel like from here, I'm going to think about what Poe finds in this book. Maybe it cuts off at the same part as the TV show. I think it would be really funny for the spaghetti reveal to maybe be when the TV turns back on or when the power comes back, or maybe even have spaghetti come from Kafka. We will figure all of that out in due time. But for now, I think we are going to call it for today. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode of the Writer's Room Takeover as we power through, finishing up the writing for this first episode for Season 0, which is Cowboy Dinosaur. And we will see all of you next week. Until then, have a very wonderful weekend. And remember that reading a good book is a gift to yourself.